To all of you, today we're going to continue with the chapter 25, the macroeconomic aims of government, or the macroeconomic objectives of government, lesson number 3. So in the last lesson, in lesson 2 on the same chapter, we discussed about the 4 main macroeconomic aims or macroeconomic objectives, which include achieving economic growth in a country. Achieving economic growth means achieving stable and sustainable economic growth in a country. Secondly, achieving low unemployment or achieving full employment in a country. Achieving full employment meaning to say achieving more than 95% employment in a country. More than 95% employment in a country. Number 3, achieving price stability. We don't want a hike in the price, too large positive hike in the price, or a large negative drop in the price. We don't want that. We don't want a inflation as well as a deflation in a country. We want a price stability in a country. The country's aim or the government's aim is to achieve a price stability in a country. And the last main aim will be the achieving stability in balance of payments, or BOP stability in a country. So this is what we discuss in general about this chapter, the macro aims of the government. So in this chapter, in this particular lesson, we're going to discuss about only two important macro aim, which are the achieving full employment in a country, number 1. Number 2 is achieving price stability. What do we mean by price stability and how to achieve the price stability in a country? So let's go into the lesson. So instructions for remote learning. Students are required to do the following: read, watch and do. Read, attach notes. These notes together with your econs course book page 221 up to 223. Watch my video presentation, this video presentation, and do all the questions given to you. 4-part questions, question A, B and C only in page 226, and attach exercise on the low unemployment and price stability. So learning objectives: by end of this lesson, students should be able to describe the 4 main, as well as mainly for this lesson should be able to explain the government macro aim of achieving full employment and price stability. Next, students should be able to explain the interlinks between inflation, cost of living, and the purchasing power. Another name for purchasing power will be buying ability or purchasing ability, or the value of money, or the real value of money. Alright, so real value of money means the purchasing power. Alright, whether you can buy more with a limited or certain amount of ringgits or dollars. Can you buy more goods, or you can buy only fewer goods? Alright, so that will be the value of money. The last objective of this lesson is to analyze why maintaining a relatively stable prices is a desirable macro aim of a country or of a government. So you should be able to explain the process and as well as the interlinks, interlinks established between inflation, cost of living and the value of money. So the first part is I've picked one macro aim, which is the full employment. Another name for full employment is achieving low unemployment. So if you take a look at the words unemployment and employment, they may sound similar, but they are two different terms, where full employment means number of people working in a country. So in this case, defining full employment means achieving more than 95% of workers in a particular country are working. Right? More than 95% of the workers in a particular country are working, meaning to say the country has achieved full employment. Or if you calculate the unemployment rate, if it is less than 5% in a country, that means the country has successfully achieved low unemployment in a country, right? Either achieving more than 95% of employment rate in a country or achieving less than 5% of unemployment rate in a country, right? So now what is the problem? The problem here is, right, labor or workers are relatively limited, okay, in relation to unlimited human wants towards the goods and services. Right, labor going to be one of the component of factors of production or economic resources that we have learned in section 1 or in microeconomics. So however, we have a situation whereby the economic resource who want to work, like labor who want to work, but they are unable to find jobs, meaning to say there are job seekers. There are active job seekers in an economy. So those workers who are actively seeking for jobs or searching for jobs, but they fail to get a job for themselves, they are considered as unemployed or not working. Okay, not working or unemployed. So when it comes to, in this section, I'm going to discuss with you how to calculate the unemployment rate. If you can calculate the unemployment rate, you automatically can calculate the employment rate. So before calculating the unemployment rate and as well as the employment rate, you must know the important term of labor force. Okay, labor force versus population. So in a country, in every country we have population. So for the case of Malaysia, for example, Malaysia has about 34 million people in a country. So but labor force is going to be one part of the big population. So labor force means the economically active population or the working population in the country. Economically active population or working population in the country. Right, those who are only working in the country or eligible to work in a country. So the population of a country can be divided into two. Right, so the first is those who are eligible to work, the other one is not eligible to work. The population which are eligible to work are those between the age range of 16 to 64. Right, newly born babies, kids, they are not eligible to work. Retired people are not eligible to work. We don't count them in the labor force. Students are not eligible to work. They are not counted in the labor force. So labor force includes only those who are eligible to work between the age range of 16 to 64. This excludes housewives, retired people and retired people, discouraged workers, excludes disabled people, right? Disabled people. So I repeat, labor force only includes those who belong to the age range of 16 to 64, excludes housewives, excludes full-time students, excludes discouraged workers, excludes disabled people in a country. And it consists of all those people of working age who are both able and willing to work. Right? If they are not able to willing to work, like disabled people or discouraged people, they are not counted in the labor force. Therefore, the labor force includes people defined by legal working age. As I mentioned earlier, legal working age means from 16 to 64. Internationally recognized legal working age will be 16 to 64. Like for the case of Malaysia, it's up to from 16 to 60 only, right? Okay, but internationally we see the legal working age range will be from 16 to 64 years. So labor force excludes all people beyond the working age limit, such as children and old age people or senior citizens. Within the age group, however, students in education, retired people, homemakers or housewives, disabled people, discouraged workers, those workers they are not willing to work anymore. They gave up in searching jobs. They don't willing to work, or maybe they took an early retirement. They took an early retirement, okay, or financially very strong people, they may not choose to work, right? So they are out of the labor force. So let's take a look at this illustration here. So the total population is, let's say for example, the total population is 32 million. Okay, from the 34 million economically inactive people. Those people are like people who out of the range of 16 to 64. All right, plus students, plus homemakers, plus discouraged workers, as well as the disabled people. So let's say all these subsets or all this group of homemakers, disabled people, retired people, students in education, discouraged workers are about 17 million in a country. So we minus out the 17 million from the 32 million, we get the count of the labor force about 15 million. So this is how we can calculate the number of workers or number of economically active people or the working population in a country. Okay, another name for labor force is working population. So we have a population in a country as well as a working population in a country. So working population of a country is what we call as the labor force. So using this labor force, we can calculate the level of what? The level of employment or unemployment, as well as the unemployment rate in a country. All right. Okay. So let's take this example. For example, labor force. Let's say the number of people in the labor force or the working population is equals to 15 million. The level of employment or number of people unemployed in that particular labor force from the labor force. Number of people employed or number of people working, or the level of employment is another term to describe the number of people working. Okay, so number of people working or the level of employment is, let's say, about 14.25 million, and the level of unemployment will be 0.75 million. So we can calculate the value of 0.75 by minusing labor force with the level of employment in the labor force or number of people working in the labor force. Alright, so therefore labor force equals to number of people employed plus number of people unemployed. So LF is the symbol for labor force, N is the number of people working. Okay, so it is an internationally recognized symbol for employment or the level of employment in a country. The level of employment in a country, we always use the term or the symbol N, and the symbol for unemployed or the level of unemployed, a number of people are not working in a country, is UN. UN in short. Therefore we can calculate the labor force is equals to N plus UN. With some algebra manipulation, we can calculate the employment rate, the employment level in a country by minusing level of unemployed from the labor force, or we can calculate the number of unemployed people in the labor force by minusing level of employment from the labor force. Hence, number of unemployed is equals to labor force minus number of employed. Or in short, we can say UN is equals to LF minus N. UN means number of unemployed minus is equals to labor force minus number of people who are working. So next, by identifying the level of employment and unemployment, we can calculate the employment rate. So as I told you earlier, employment rate or achieving full employment means a country should be able to achieve more than 95% working in a country. 95% of people are working in the country. Alright, so we can calculate the employment rate by using the indicators of labor force, level of employment, and level of unemployment. Alright, so the formula to calculate the employment and unemployment rate is equals to number of unemployed in the labor force divided by labor force times 100%. I repeat, in order to calculate unemployment rate in a country is equals to number of unemployed divided by the labor force times 100. In short, we can say UR equals to UN divided by LF times 100%. So by calculating the unemployment rate, we can calculate the employment rate. So if you want to calculate the employment rate, you can easily calculate the employment rate by dividing number of employed with the labor force times 100%. If you take the number of working population or number of people who are actively working divided by the labor force times 100%, you will get employment rate. So it is very easy to calculate the employment rate as well as the unemployment rate. Or the other way for you to calculate the employment rate using the unemployment rate is 100% minus whatever employment rate that you have calculated, you can get the unemployment rate. So for example, let's take a look at this calculation here. So number of unemployed is 0.75 million, for example, and labor force, let's say, is about 15 million. So we can calculate the unemployment rate as follows, where unemployment rate is what? Number of unemployed, or UN divided by the LF times 100%. So the UN is 0.75 million divided by 15 million LF in the labor force times 100%, you get about unemployment rate of 5%. If the unemployment rate is 5%, the employment rate is 95%. Alright? If the unemployment rate is 5%, the employment rate is 95%. So how we get 95% is just by minusing 5% from 100%. So 100% minus 5%, you will get the balance of employment rate. So to interpret this unemployment rate is, it means in a given year, in one particular year, 5% of the labor force is unemployed. Okay, or we can say 5% of the working population is unemployed, while the rest of 95% are employed in the country. Okay, by looking at the unemployment rate, we can easily explain the employment rate in a country. Okay, if the unemployment rate is 5%, we can conclude 95% of employment rate. If unemployment rate is 10%, we can easily conclude 90% of employment rate in a country. Next will be the impacts or effects of unemployment, or implication of unemployment. So what are the implications of unemployment? Is it good or bad? It is it is a serious problem. Unemployment is a very serious problem, okay, because it is so much damaging to the economy and as well as to the society, where the first point here is what? Unemployment is a waste of limited economic resources. Economic resources itself already limited. We need workers, we need labours. But if they are not working, meaning to say we are wasting limited resources in a country. Okay, we are wasting the limited resources in a country. So that's the first point here. Wastages of resources. Okay, the first point here is what? The implication of unemployment. The first one is the wastages of the resources, mainly the labours in the country. Okay, so secondly, you can see it leads to fall in people's income. Meaning to say, if you are not working, therefore you are not earning. If you are not earning, therefore you are not paying tax. Right? So it reduces the government tax revenue. Right? If you are not contributing, or if you are not paying tax, therefore you are that means it reduces the national income of a country. Right? That is number one. So there are two types of taxes that you pay. One is for the expenditure. The other one is the revenue or income tax. All right. So direct tax as well as the indirect tax. As you earn, you pay tax. As you spend, you also pay tax. So this much of tax revenue, okay, is not contributed to the national income or to the country. Next, this will affect the economic growth of a country and as well as the standard of living. All right. So if one person is not working, therefore he is not earning. As he is not earning, he is dependent on other people. He is not paying tax. He is not purchasing goods and services. All right. Okay. This increases the government burden to do more expenditure to create job opportunities for these people. This is one particular person if not working. How if one big society is not working? It is a very serious problem in a country. Okay, so it increases the burden for the government to invest on to do more expenditure on the economy and create more jobs. All right. So the third point here, you can see firms suffer in terms of drop in their business. All right, while government collect less taxes and burden with more expenses. All right, they have to spend more. Government has to spend more money to create jobs for those who are unemployed. So all this will affect the standards of living of people in the country and also will affect the people's welfare. So next will be the full employment, the term full employment. All right, as I discussed earlier, the full employment means achieving more than 95% or more. Okay, achieving 95% or more of employment in a country within a year. In a country. So in reality, an economy cannot reach 0% of unemployment rate. So 0% of unemployment, it is not real. All right, it is not practical because people are constantly switching jobs and searching jobs. Okay, the process of job switching and searching is what we call frictional unemployment. So the job switching and job searching activities always exist in a country, in an economy. Right? So therefore, the country will never achieve 0% of unemployment rate or 100% of employment rate. It is not practical. It is not in reality. Right? Therefore, unemployment rate below 3%, we can say exactly reaching the full employment. Below 3% of unemployment rate, or about 98% of employment rate, or 97% of employment rate, okay, in a country shows the country is already achieved the full employment. Right? It's already achieved the full employment. So next, the next macro aim of the government is the price stability. Alright, so price stability means the government aims to achieve a stable general price level. General price level means prices of all the goods and services. Okay, so the general price level can be calculated using the consumer price index or producer price index or retail price index, which we will learn later in later chapters. Okay, there are a few measures of calculating general price level by using the consumer goods or producer goods or the retailers goods. So if you calculate a price index using the consumer good, we call it as a consumer price index. If you calculate the price index using the producer goods or capital goods, we can say producer price index. The last one, if we use a retail prices or retail goods, therefore it's a RPI, retail price index. Right, so all this we will learn later. But now, for now, achieving price stability, meaning to say that we don't want the general price level to increase. We don't want a large positive increase or large negative drop in the general price level. Large positive increase will lead to inflation. A large drop in the general price level will lead to a deflation. So in a country, the government don't wish to reach a large increase in the general price level as well as a large drop in the general price level. Okay, so the country wish to maintain a low price level, okay, right, or a stable price level, okay, at a certain threshold point, right, or at a certain threshold level. So inflation means a continuous rise in the average level of prices. Okay, it means what? A continuous rise in the average level of prices. If prices rise too quickly, too high, it can be bad for business and the whole economy. Right? It is not good for the businesses. It is not good for the whole economy because it may reduce the people's purchasing power. It may increase the cost of living as well as it can affect the real value of money. Okay, it may reduce the real value of money. Okay, inflation also a rise in the general price level, or inflation also can make goods and services are more costly. So this is an explanation. This is going to be the explanation for the rise in the cost of living. Okay. Due to higher prices, all right. Hence, the cost of living increases. As the cost of living increases, people's living standard will decrease. It means people cannot enjoy more goods and services. Okay, people cannot enjoy higher savings. They cannot do more savings since the prices of goods and services are expensive. So this leads to more expenditure with the limited number of goods enjoyed. All right. Limited number of goods enjoyed and lesser savings. So if a worker or a household earns, they will do two things. One is the spending and the other one is savings. All right. So if the cost of or if the prices of goods and services are higher, a household can do limited expenditure and also limited savings. Lesser expenditure, lesser spending, lesser savings because of the inflation. So inflation will affect the living standard. Therefore, you may not have a better living living standard or lifestyle. So as a result, the purchasing power of money drops. Right? The purchasing power of money drops means the real value of money drops. Real value of money drops, meaning to say, for 10 ringgit last time you can buy 10 marker pens, for example, and now for the same 10 ringgit you can only buy 5 marker pens, for example. 5 marker pens, because what happened? The price of marker pen has increased. Okay, so this is an example. It's an example of the inflation where the real value of money, real value of money has dropped.